Al-Shabaab takes credit for a suicide car bombing in Somalia's capital, killing at least 6 people. We'll take a closer look at the changing political landscape in Angola and the dangerous hunt for poachers in one of the most stunning and remote wildlife refuges in the world. We'll have a special report. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. Topping our broadcast tonight, a bomb blast ripped through a district headquarters in Somalia on Monday, and officials say at least 6 people were killed and another 16 were wounded. The blast targeted the headquarters of Horn district in Mogadishu. Cell phone video from the scene showed a large cloud rising from the explosion. Witnesses say the blast caused massive destruction to the building. Police officer Ibrahim Mohammed told the French news agency AFP the blast was huge. The Al-Shabaab militant group claimed responsibility for the attack via their affiliate social media accounts. It's the second time this month the terrorist group has targeted a local district headquarters in Mogadishu. On September 2nd, a suicide car bomb destroyed the headquarters of the neighboring Hawala Dang district, killing 3 people. Moving to South Sudan, where authorities are investigating the cause of a deadly plane crash on Sunday. 20 people were killed when a small aircraft crashed after taking off from the capital Juba and plunged into Lake Kirol. State Information Minister Tabana Bell says there were 22 people on board the 19-seater airline commercial plane. The victims of Sunday's crash include the Anglican Bishop of Ural Diocese, Ugandan and an Ethiopian national. It is still not clear what caused the crash. Aviation authorities say they have seen documents indicating the plane was well maintained. Officials are now putting in place tough measures that airline companies must adhere to in order to prevent accidents. This is not the deadliest plane crash in South Sudan. In 2015, a cargo plane carrying passengers crashed into the banks of the Nile River in Juba, killing dozens. Angolan President João Lourenço has officially taken the helm of the ruling People's Movement for the Liberation of Angola, or MPLA party. He won the party's leadership election and opposed at the weekend, marking the end of José Eduardo dos Santos' almost 40-year dominance of Angolan politics. Lourenço became president last September, but dos Santos remained ahead of the ruling party, a power split that some believe has slowed Lourenço's reform agenda in a country where the separation between party and state has long been blurred. There are questions around whether Lourenço may shuffle his cabinet to further drive his anti-corruption campaign and economic reforms. Lourenço, who received more than 98% of the vote, vowed in his closing speech that ruling party members will not be immune in his drive to stamp out graft. He's already removed former President dos Santos' daughter, Isabel, as chair of state oil company Sonangol, and his son, José Filomeno dos Santos, as head of the Sovereign Wealth Fund. Well, for more on the political developments in Angola, I'm joined by VOA Portuguese reporter João José Santarita. Welcome, João.
Thank you very much for having me here.
Now, we had a conversation here many months ago, and we were talking about this challenge that the new president faces in that he doesn't have all the power. Now, with this new development, what does it really mean, and what really led to this?
Well, it's going to be, I think, let's go first with President dos Santos. He was under enormous pressure to leave, because what people within the MPLA were saying, and it was true, is that basically throughout Angola he wasn't a very popular man. And everybody was very tired of the dos Santos family, to be quite blunt about it. So he was under tremendous pressure to leave. Now, what does this mean is exactly what we want to see. I must say that in this first year in power, he's already started a whole lot of reforms in terms of economics. For example, not only he fired Isabel dos Santos from the head of the Sonangol, but he has reduced the scope of Sonangol, which is now basically just an oil company and nothing more than that. It had grown to a huge empire that controlled lots of other things. He has put an end to that. He has also, as you said, fired the son of President dos Santos from the Sovereign Wealth Fund, and he's trying to go to courts in England and Mauritius to recover some of the money that was invested through a Swiss company called Quantum Global.
Actually, the brazenness with which he appointed his own family members to some of these really powerful kind of agencies make me wonder, was he benefiting members of the party also, or was it more about just his family members?
No. There was a lot of people in the higher circles of the MPLA that were benefiting from this. There was widespread corruption at very high level. It was not only his family. And it's interesting that in the speech that João Lourenço made during the weekend, he said that we are going to go after everybody, no matter how high they are. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. It's already started. We had a story last week, 3 top officials in Huambo province, which is the second most important province in Angola, have been arrested for corruption. And these are 3 top guys there. So, but it's going to be interesting. Now, at this weekend, nearly half of the political bureau, which runs the MPLA, were fired and replaced by Lourenço's people.
And this is very interesting because he came from the party.
Exactly.
How is it that he's able to do this? Does it mean that he was from a group of people who wanted to see change, not only within the party, but also in the country? Yeah. Or how do you explain this?
There's an historical fact here that's very interesting. He's the first leader of the party and of the country that didn't come from the colonial armed struggle against the Portuguese. So he joined the MPLA in '74, just as the country was about to become independent. He rose very quickly. He was sent to study in the then Soviet Union. Then he rose very quickly in the military ranks. But in 2002, 2003, it's very interesting because he was rising very fast, and all of a sudden Dos Santos took his power from him. Yeah. He remained a member of parliament, but the Angolans called that the desert crossing of João Lourenço. For a long time he was sort of left in the cold, and then he started rising again. So he really symbolizes a new era within the MPLA.
Wow. Very interesting. We are going to keep watching developments there. João, thank you very much for joining us and giving us those insights. Well, this viewer is Portuguese reporter João José Santarita. Now, in the first of a 3-part series, VOA investigates animal poaching, the illegal hunting and killing of an animal to harvest its body parts. Nowhere in Africa has ivory poaching taken a higher toll than Minkebe Park in Gabon, home to nearly half of Africa's forest elephants. From 2004 to 2014, more than 80% of Minkebe's elephants vanished, more than 25,000 elephants gone. VOA's Tatiana Mossot spent 8 days with rangers on a dangerous hunt for poachers in one of the most stunning and remote wildlife refuges in the world.
On the Ivindo River, Gabon. This canoe, carved over a tree trunk, can hold 14 people. We are 7 on board for a 1-week patrol. Our destination? North, to the place in Africa where ivory poaching has exploded, Minkebe National Park.
We are exactly at the border between Gabon and Congo. Policemen and eco-guards are patrolling along the river. This is the only way for them in this region to find poachers.
Our small team of eco-guards polices 500 kilometers of river. On the other side, easy escape routes to Congo and Cameroon. Jean-Pierre Pobalas is the senior ranger. He grew up on the Ivindo. He knows every bend and the many camps poachers use pretending to be fishing. The team finds nothing at this camp, where Pygmy family fishes. The checks go on at night, when poachers use cover of darkness. An inspection finds nothing in this family's boat. We have traveled 250 of the Ivindo's 500 kilometers. Now, a camp Pobalas has never noticed before.
Voilà, il y a du sang dessus. Regarde-moi un peu du sang qui est dessus. Ici. Ça ne fait pas longtemps. Et c'est la viande d'éléphant. Et là, ça sert à tuer les éléphants. C'est pas bon. Ils ont 5 sacs. Voilà.
The rangers find a suspect and fear his accomplices may return with weapons. In the bag, they discover credentials. These men from Cameroon, the others from Gabon and Republic of Congo.
Une hache qui a servi.
Evidence mounts, 3 cartridges, 2 bullets, an axe to chop up tusks, spears used to kill. The team cannot make an arrest. There is no room in the boat to bring the suspect back. Legally, they can't pursue the others into Republic of Congo.
On arrive, on se rend compte que la personne qu'on poursuit est peut-être de l'autre côté, mais lorsqu'on arrive là-bas, on n'a pas de possibilité d'agir ou bien de mettre la main sur lui.
But the Gabonese military camp of Lele is not far. They decide to come back the next day with reinforcements.
As you can see now, we are walking deep in the forest. We left the main road usually hunters are using. Now we are trying to follow Jean-Pierre, one of the eco-guard, who said that poachers may have used one of this way to bring back the elephant meat to the camp.
More evidence. Traps to poach panther and pangolin, but no sign of tusks or a dead elephant. Even if the authorities decide to arrest the poachers, there are no facilities to detain them. While the Gabonese government has provided money and supplies, it is far from enough. Minkebe's forest elephants continue to vanish. And so do the poachers.
Well, tomorrow on Africa 54, you won't want to miss part 2 of our series. The Poachers, the second largest national park in Africa, is a safari destination rich with wildlife, but it's also a top destination for ivory poachers, and elephants are paying a steep price. Tuesday will tell you how impoverished neighbors are working to fight poaching and the poachers themselves. So be sure to join us. Now, conflicts between ethnic communities over dwindling resources has sent more than 1 million people fleeing for their lives since April. Most are living in schools, hospitals, and makeshift shelters in the border areas of the southern nations, nationalities, and peoples region and the Oromia region of Ethiopia. The UN Refugee Agency reports the displaced are in dire need of basic relief, including food, water, blankets, and cooking supplies. However, UNHCR spokesperson Barbara Balok tells VOA more than 200,000 people have returned to their areas of origin. He says it's important that those who have returned to their homeland and farms be helped to rebuild their lives. The UN agency and its partners say they are requesting more than $21 million for their humanitarian operations in the coming year. Now, I want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook. So check us out and share our show with your friends. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince McCory. Still ahead on Africa 54, what will it take to electrify the continent? We'll have the details. But first, a look at Monday's headlines.
In Somalia, at least 6 people are killed and 16 others injured after a car bomb exploded outside a local government office in Mogadishu. In South Sudan, at least 19 people are dead after a plane crashed flying from Juba to Ural. In Libya, 6 gunmen attacked the country's national oil company headquarters in Tripoli and took hostages. In Zimbabwe, the newly inaugurated President Emmerson Mnangagwa swore in his personally selected government officials in Harare. Finally, in Madagascar, a stampede of people before an Africa Cup of Nations qualifier between Madagascar and Senegal killed at least 1 person and injured 40 others. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.
Well, sub-Saharan Africa's electrical capacity is far below what you might see in many other parts of the world. The region's power sector is significantly underdeveloped, but it also has potential to boost its power generation capacity. It's one reason why there is now a push to electrify the continent and take power beyond the cities. In part one of our series, Empowering Africa, VOA senior analyst Jeffrey Young speaks with the economist and others about why the region remains underpowered.
In the cities of sub-Saharan Africa, there's electricity, although too frequently it's not reliable. But outside of the cities, there's often no electricity, unless the power comes from a portable generator. Overall, sub-Saharan Africa's electrification is far behind other parts of the world. In a 2016 report, the World Bank said that only 42% of the continent has power. A major reason? Money. An Africa economist for the World Bank, Michael Toman, explains.
Countries that have low incomes, as do many of the countries in sub-Saharan Africa, simply have a difficulty in finding the finance, either their own or private investment, that can come in and deliver on that.
The World Bank report spotlights the gap between urban electrification, roughly 71%, versus 22% in the region's rural areas. And planning is needed today to anticipate the needs of Africa tomorrow. World Bank Africa economist Musa Blimpo.
It's a very long-term investment. Some of these areas that we are talking about today that are not densely populated, we don't know how they will look like 25 years down the road, right? So the investment of electrification shouldn't be based purely on how places and things look like today.
In North America and many other regions, electric power typically comes from private companies, and there can be competition among them for customers. But much of Africa's power comes from governments and state-owned enterprises, which an energy analyst for the aid group Oxfam says is often at the core of the problem, as Sasanka Thalakasiri told VOA.
The state-based utilities are a critical actor in this. And again, unfortunately, in the African context, they are subject to a lot of misuse, a lot of technical losses. They lack capacity. There's sometimes corruption issues involved with some of the utilities.
Some state-owned utilities manipulate the market to prevent competition, which distorts revenue, and that discourages the entry of competition, according via Skype to University of California, Berkeley energy specialist Daniel Kamen.
The state controls the situation so that tariffs are set to exclude new players, innovation is slow, and the utilities that exist generally can't collect the revenues that they should be getting, so they're not financially stable.
But the cost of expanding grids to rural areas can make electricity too expensive once villages are wired. Speaking via Skype, solutions are offered by University of KwaZulu-Natal economist Gerard Boyce.
In this case, it would be a case for subsidizing electricity and waiting until the market matures. And as the market matures, then you will introduce more competition, and the price would actually the price would then rise up to the market or the competitive price.
Next on Empowering Africa, the discussion continues, including a look at the U.S. Power Africa program. Jeffrey Young, VOA News, Washington.
Well, in Tuesday's part 2 of Empowering Africa, fully electrifying sub-Saharan Africa is a daunting challenge, but along with the traditional solutions of building and running a vast nationwide electrical grid, there are new solutions for villages and other small areas. VOA senior analyst Jeffrey Young will describe the options available for providing electrical services across the continent. Now, control of U.S. Congress is at stake in this November's midterm elections. In today's highly polarized political environment, Republican and Democratic partisans are staking their positions on the key issues, and debate does little to persuade them. That's a problem in a government that depends on compromise. Social scientists have shown that Americans are sorting themselves into like-minded groups. Now, neuroscience may help explain why people rarely change their minds on deeply held beliefs, even when presented with the facts. VOA Steve Baragona has more.
From ancient Greece to the founding of America and beyond, every democracy rests on the principle of give and take, says University of Southern California neuroscientist Jonas Kaplan.
That conversation can change minds, and that if we discuss issues with each other, we can learn from each other and actually adjust our beliefs.
But on contentious issues such as gay marriage or gun control, conversations only rarely change beliefs. Kaplan wanted to know what's going on in our brains that makes changing our minds so hard. So his team studied people using a brain scanner.
Press the button as soon as you read each statement.
And on a screen, we showed them first a statement that we knew they believed in. And then after that, we showed them a series of 5 statements that challenged those beliefs.
Kaplan's team then tested whether people had changed their minds. They found differences between the brains of people who did and those who didn't in regions that deal with emotions.
What we found is that the people who activated these emotional brain regions more were less likely to change their minds.
The most stubborn people had the most activity in the amygdala, which responds to fear and threats and other strong emotions, and in the insular cortex, which inputs feelings from our bodies into decision-making.
So this right here in blue...
These systems evolved to protect us, Kaplan says.
The insular cortex supports feelings of disgust that we might encounter when we see rancid food, for example. And now we're seeing those systems kind of repurposed to help protect us against new kinds of threats that are more abstract. In this case, it's information that the brain thinks might be harmful to us.
Kaplan says for many people, political beliefs are an important part of who they are and who they call their friends and allies.
And that raises the stakes for changing one's mind. So to change a particular belief about politics might involve not just changing your belief, but it might involve affecting your relationships with other people. What are people going to think of me now?
Emotions do play a role in judgment when we learn new information, but Kaplan adds they can also get in the way of making good decisions.
Just being mindful of how we feel and how those feelings are influencing how we're responding to that information might help.
In today's hyper-partisan environment, that may be harder and more important than usual. Steve Baragona, VOA News.
Welcome back to Africa 54, and here's what's trending. Now, a robot that can pick up random objects it has never seen before has been developed by researchers from MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory. The CSAIL team has created the Dense Object Net system, a neural network which they say allows robots to inspect objects and visually understand them enough to grab them at specific points. After training, if a point on an object is specified by a person, the robot can photograph and identify it before picking it up. Researchers say this lets robots pick out specific objects among a batch of similar objects, which could be useful or for sorting machines used in warehouses. Well, and finally, a British businessman is entering the race to build new intercity flying taxi services that tap recent aerospace advances while steering clear of more fanciful blue sky visions touted by tech entrepreneurs. Stephen Fitzpatrick's Vertical Aerospace aims to offer short-haul intercity flights using piloted fixed-wing aircraft within 4 years, Fitzpatrick said in an interview with Reuters. It is looking to target some of the most congested air corridors in the world with aircraft that don't require runways, but also have enough heft to fly distances up to 500 miles. In a later stage, it will seek to extend the aircraft's range, introduce elements of autonomous flight, and expand the number of chartered routes it can serve, while working with authorities to make on-demand air taxis a reality. And that's what's trending today. Now, the Democratic Republic of Congo is known across Africa for its high-energy dance culture. The contemporary local pop dances that feature winding waist movements and stiff leg kicks have become famous. But some dance artists are focused on older styles of dance. Ballet Grand Danseurs is a Kinshasa-based group formed in 2011 to preserve the traditional dances of the Congo's ethnic groups. Chika Odua reports from Kampala.
A twitch of the hips, a tap of the foot, and graceful arms in sync with the vibrant rhythm. This is traditional Congolese dance, and every week these artists meet here in an effort to preserve it.
Of course, we have to protect it. We must always hold on to our traditions. In each tribe, messages are sent through dancing. We, as traditional artists, we cherish our traditions, and it's important for the life of our tribes.
Juko Nzenza leads the dancers. They come from across the DRC, representing some of the country's 200 ethnic groups. They've mastered their traditional dances, but it's an art that doesn't get nearly as much attention as Congo's soukous, famed across Africa. New soukous dance moves shared on social media quickly go viral. And Fally Ipupa, arguably the best soukous pop star in the DRC these days, has taken the dance to a new level. His music videos and concerts set the tone for what will trend in the streets. But 20-year-old Abigail Pemba says traditional dance is her priority. She focuses on preparing her body for the acrobatic movements. For her, it's more than just a dance.
It's our heritage. My mother is also a dancer.
Ballet Arumbaya Ndendeli takes traditional dance to the level of high-performance art. The Kinshasa-based group combines strong visual elements with intricate choreography. Nzeza and his ballet Grand Danseur hope to do the same and even more.
To go as far as possible, to Western countries, to many other countries, not simply playing in Congo, to sign many contracts, to perform here and there in great halls.
Chika Odua for VOA News in Kinshasa.
A little bit more on tech news. A wearable robot that allows one person to share someone else's body is being developed by researchers at the University of Tokyo and Keio University. The robot has arms and a head that are operated remotely by a user wearing a virtual reality headset. Another user acts as what the developers call a surrogate body by wearing the robot like a backpack. The lead researcher says the project aimed to enable two people to share the same view and share a body. The robotic arms can be moved independently of the surrogate body to pick up small objects or shake hands. The robotic hands can also be replaced with straps that wrap around the wearer's wrists, allowing complete remote control of the backpack wearer. That's our show. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a good night.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Canaries are little yellow birds.
Canary in a coal mine.
Why are these cute birds in a dark coal mine?
Did you hear about Sarah? The boss took her to dinner and then fired her the next day.
The same thing happened to Jason. The boss took him to dinner and then fired him.
Dinner with the boss